Hey there, greetings everybody, and welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here on Tuesday night with an episode of Metal. Now, Metal is a show that I put on every second Tuesday. It alternates that space with What's New, which was last week, so it's Metal's turn this week. And generally speaking, what I do with Metal is I choose an older group and I review them one week, one episode, and then the next episode I do a newer metal band, just so I can try to keep a balance here, so that I'm trying to keep up with what I have that I've listened to for years, and also to start to explore some of the newer spaces that I haven't explored. So I've chosen a band today for this episode called Hellripper. I did get this band from a YouTube site where it's put on by a young man named Bryce. He does Bryce Knows Metal. I think that's what it's called. Or Bryce Does Metal. One of the two. I'm not sure which one. Anyways, I took the band from listening to some of his, not recommendations, but he was listing bands, and I looked into this band because he talked a little bit about it, and I thought this will be an excellent band to do a kind of entry level for me into black metal and speed metal, which is exactly what Hellripper is. So this is my first sauntering into this realm. I'm not saying I haven't listened to some of this stuff before. Basically, I used to watch a show on Sea of Tranquility where they would talk a lot about metal as well, so I started listening to a little bit of this stuff, so I decided it's time to delve into the black metal scene. And I did say at the beginning of metal that I would be doing a little bit of all the genres that are within metal, trying to just get my feet wet, I guess is the best way to put it. So Hellripper is basically the creation of one person, James McBain. James McBain created this band. He pretty much plays everything on the album. Like, I think he plays the bass, the drums, the guitars, and does the vocals as well. So I'm not sure about some of the other little instrumentation in there, and I believe there are some, but I'm not quite 100% sure. He may have some synthesizer effects as well. So the band is primarily influenced by dark metal and also from thrash metal. The dark metal bands Venom and Dark Throne are the two bands that he cites here. Thrash metal bands such as Megadeth, Metallica, and Sabbath are the ones he cites for the thrash metal. And then he also has a little bit of that punk sound, which he gets from Motorhead and Anti-Semex. So his lyrics are basically witchcraft, occult and satanic themes. This is not really a realm that I know much about, nor do I have much of an interest in, but I wanted to delve into this area of the music so I could see what I was getting. There's a pretty good stuff here. So despite that kind of occult type thing, I've decided that I will take the best parts of this and enjoy it. Okay, so this originated in Aberdeen, Scotland. That's, I guess, where he was born, or where he formed the band, which was formed in 2014. They released an EP, Manifestations of Evil, and which was released, and then they did a what they would call a I can't think of the term right now, where they worked on an album with another band, and the band that he did that with was Bathsheba. Sorry, getting a little tongue-tied today. And so this was done in Philadelphia, which is in the United States, of course. He then released since then he's released 3 studio albums and 2 EPs in total, as well as a compilation, I believe. So the live when the band tours live, of course he can't play every instrument, which if he could, he'd be a magician, but he doesn't. So he basically has other people that play with him. In the past, he's had Mark Lurch on guitar, Peter Barron on bass, Callum Crothers on drums, and Ross Finlay, or Finslav, on drums as well. But the current band is Clark Core on bass. He's been with the band since 2016. Joseph Gunlin, I think it's Gunlin actually, guitars, and he's been with them since 2017. And Max Southall on drums, and he's been with the band since 2018. So it's been fairly consistent for the last 3 or 4, 5 years. Pretty solid. Anyways, the band has basically three studio albums. The first one's about 26 minutes in length, was released in 2017, called Coagulating Darkness. Yes. So I did write some notes. I made notes on this album as I went. I'm not going to go greatly into depth, although I will need my glasses, which I probably should have had on already, but I didn't even realize it until I looked at myself. So basically, this album was released in 2017, like I said. It was about 26 minutes in length. It's an overall, the cover has a horde of, it's a goat beast. It looks like a goat beast with horns, and it's in a dark mass garden, which he looks like he's tending with people, and there's a skull at the gate that's kind of behind the gate, but almost surrealistic, I guess, is what you might want to call it. The tracks on the album, I'll just list them. There's Bastards of Hades, Annalise, Demtiki, or In League with the Devil, that's the name of the song. Within the Everlasting, Hellfire, From Hell, Black Innovation, Conduit Closing, and Coagulating Darkness, which is, of course, the title track of this album. All vocals are done in that growl, and he's actually pretty good at it. He has a bit of a dark growl at times, or a deeper growl if you prefer, and then more of a more lower end growl. I'm not sure how you might want to put that, but it's a little bit different than the deep growl, I guess. It's all high-speed metal pretty much on this album. Lots of soloing, pretty detailed soloing. Nothing outstanding that makes you stand up and notice, but it's all pretty solid. The drum parts are pretty much all speedy, and not as forward as the vocals. The vocals, I think, are the more prominent part of all the songs. Like, the vocals are very forward, and then you got the guitar probably next, and the drums are a little bit more in the background here. So yeah, most of the songs are short, fast-paced, 2 to 3 minutes, or 2 to 4 minutes, in that realm there. There's one track, I think, that's outside of that, but most of them fall well within that range. So I would call them short metal songs. The songs, of course, are all dark content with a very high speed to them. There was one point that I wanted to make. I made a note of it somewhere, and I'm just looking for it. Yeah, there's a couple of songs on here where he kind of is slow at the beginning. So a little bit more of a melodical guitar part. Everlasting, Hellfire, and there's one other, and I didn't write it. So anyways, there's a couple songs like that on the album that are a little bit more mundane or more melodic sounding guitar riffing at the beginning, as opposed to the more speedy guitars that goes on in most of the song. So that first album is pretty good, but you can see the evolution in the second album almost immediately. Or I don't know if it's evolution or a change in direction is probably a better term, because evolution to me invokes that it's gotten better, even though that isn't actually what happens in evolution. But that's for another channel and another entire conversation, which I don't want to get into. So the second album is called Affair of the Poisons, released 3 years later in 2020. It's about 29 minutes long, so roughly the same length. The cover again with a beast with a goat's head, and with horns, of course, and a star in the background with Also with these women in chains, they look like they're burning in a sea of hellfire. That's what it looks like to me, and they're being tended by a man with a cross, with a staff which has a cross on the top. So I'm not sure what that means. Obviously, some serious symbolism here. The opening tracks start with that kind of heavy melodic guitar. Right off the bat, it's not as speedy as the other album. There's got there's a few tracks on here that have more of that more melodic sounding guitar, not as speed metal oriented as it was on the first album. Again, the vocals, the growl vocals, which are the only kind of vocals on this album, are very dominant and probably the most forward part of the album. It's a very fast-paced album for the most part. Catchy riffs. I found some of the riffs like on Vampire's Grave and Hanging Tree. I thought they were really well done. This album has 9 tracks, I believe. Affairs of the Poison, which is the title track. Spectre of the Blood Moon Sabbath. That was the second one. Vampire Grave, Beyond the something walls. I can't read that part of what I wrote. Savage Blasphemous, Hexamnot, I think that's how you pronounce it. And there's a couple other tracks here: Blood Orgy of the Devil and Hanging Tree. Yes. So most of the tracks, again, very kind of similar to the first album. Fast-paced, lots of growling vocals in both ranges. Speedy drums, typical speed metal type of environment. But there are a lot more melodic parts in this than there was in the original album, in the first album. So it's a little bit more tempered, I guess. Maybe might be a good word to use. The third album, which was just released this year, and I'm actually going to do a video on it. I'm not going to get too in depth with it here, but I'm going to do a video on my what's new on this album. Won't be this week because I already have one set for this week, but I will do it maybe for next week. The album is called Warlock, Grime, and Withered Hags, released in 2023. It's a little bit longer than the other two albums, 43 minutes. I think it has 9 tracks, but the overall average of the song is up from the previous album, which was also up from the previous album from that. So the average length of the songs on the first album were probably about 2 to 4 minutes. On the second album, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. This one, you've got a couple of tracks, especially the last track on the album, which is called Mr. Storm. I think that's what's called. Mr. Storm Worm. That is probably about 9 minutes long. It's the longest track on any of the 3 albums. So again, once again, the cover of this album, very grim, of course, coated with, it's another goated horned beast with an acolyte behind him. Yeah, I think the horned goat theme is used quite a bit by him. And I'm not really sure the significance of that. Only I've seen this before in other kind of satanic type stuff. I'm not really sure what the significance of it is. Some more good soloing on this, I think. A little bit more noticeable, I think, than the previous album. The growl vocals, once again, are dominant. That's the most dominant feature of these 3 albums, I think. Title track is a little slower and more melodic than of a metal sound than any of these previous albums, and I think the entire track is like that, which is the first time that you see this with this group. Okay, so they do have a live video of them doing a live concert on this as well, so I guess it's his backup band or his band that he hires to work with him while he's touring, and they do the song Goat Vomit Nightmare on that. It's in a club scene. You get to see the band for the first time, kind of how they look live as opposed to just hearing them on the album. And then, of course, the longest track on any of the 3 albums, Mr. Stoolworm, which is the last track on it. And it does have quite a bit of good stuff on this album. It's a little bit longer. I think there's 9 tracks on this album as well. So then they have a couple of EPs. Now the first EP was released early on, before the first album. It was released in 2015. Another goat head with horns over a grave. It's all in black and white as well. Not the album cover isn't as high a quality as some of the other ones, which are very high quality, I think. The vocals are deeper on this as well. He hasn't developed that second style. He's got this more deeper stuff to him, and of course it's very speed metalish. The other EP, released 4 years later, just before the second album, so 2019, about 12 minutes, 4 songs on it. Again, that pencil art of creatures, heavy, fast paced. Again, more growl vocals made clearer than the first EP. These are more frontal than the first one, and I think he's doing more of that lower. Well, he's got the deeper growl, but he also does the other growl that is more of a medium range, I guess. Maybe that might be what you want to call it. So overall, I found this band to be interesting, even though it's a band in the sense that they tour together as a band, but in real sense it's the creative mind of one James McBain, from Scotland, and his lyrics are very, of course, occultish. There's no doubt about it. Very witchcraft-oriented music. Lots of references to hell and Satan and all that kind of stuff that you get with that kind of dark metal. Very interesting music. I think I didn't know what to expect, and I was trying to keep an open mind about it, because it's not really music that I've ever followed before. But I actually found some of the guitar and some of the musical parts very interesting to listen to. Also, his vocals are not bad for growl vocals, which I actually could understand. And I don't know if that's him or if just I've listened to enough that growling vocal sound now that I'm starting to understand what they're saying, and it actually suits the music. I don't think you could just do a normal vocal and do this. I don't think it would have the same effect that it does. But overall, pretty solid band. If you want to get into that dark metal realm and speed metal realm, or if you're already into it and you don't know of these guys, this is a band worth checking out. Hellripper, originally formed 2014 and still playing now. New album out. We'll be doing a review on that, probably not on what's new this week coming, the next week that is, but on the following one. So it might be 3 weeks before I get to it. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Metal. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Metal. This will be an older band, and we will talk to you then. So please make your comments about Hellripper. Anything you have to offer, I'm open to. I'd like to know more. Please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And you have yourself a good evening, and we will see you in 2 weeks on Metal. Take care.